Okay, now the pesky order of operations or order of ops. The very most critical thing that you need to remember is that as you read left to right, just like in reading a book, you start from left to right. This is the order. I know that you have learned PEMDAS. The problem with PEMDAS is it leads you to believe that there are 6 things you have to do. But there really are only 4 as long as you're reading from left to right. So we're going to rename that. I'm not going to refer to PEMDAS. If you have PEMDAS down and you use it correctly every single time, then I'm not worried about you. But so the first would be grouping symbols, right? Groups. The P in PEMDAS makes you think that parentheses is the only group. It is not. There's parentheses, there's absolute value, there's a fraction bar, there's a radical sign, and probably others that I'm not thinking of. Those are all grouping symbols, all right? Not just parentheses. So we don't like the P because there are other symbols besides parentheses. The second would be powers. And you've learned it as exponents. But here's the thing. If you have, say, the cube root or the square root of something, square root, you don't usually see the 2. Well, that means the same thing as something to the 1/2 power. So anytime you see a root, that's just a fractional exponent. So that's why I'm calling it powers. All right. The third step, and again, this is as you read left to right, scaling. And what scaling means is, so let me do this. If you have a photo, right, and then you enlarge it, but you keep the same perspective, so the photo, so this person's head doesn't, look like this. When you keep the same perspective, so the photo looks correct, that's called scaling. Well, in math, scaling is multiplication and division. So, but it's whichever comes first as you read left to right. So scaling operations is multiplication or division, whichever comes first, left to right. All right? And then the final step is combining things. And combining means either adding or subtracting, but it's the same type of operation. Same with scaling. It's the same type of operation. There aren't 6 types. There's only 4 operations or 4 things you have to know to do order. So let's go ahead and look at this. So as we read left to right, well, there's multiplication. There's a group. There is subtract. Now be careful, that's subtract a negative, so you're going to have to be careful. But the operations are multiply, there's a grouping symbol, and there's a subtract. Well, remember a minute ago, groupings first, then powers, and remember all of this as you read left to right, then powers, then scaling operations, and scaling as you read left to right is multiply or divide, then combining, which is just add or subtract as you read left to right. First thing we're going to do is we're going to simplify that group. Well, 6 subtract 4 is 2. So we'll rewrite this now as 14 times -5 times 2 subtract -8. All right? Well, there's multiplication. This is multiplication. And this is subtraction. Well, which one do you multiply first? Some of you might think, well, 2, it's in a group. Well, 2, that parentheses, since 2 is the only thing inside the parentheses, that just means multiply. So we're going to start from the left. 14 times negative 5 is negative 70. Times 2, subtract negative 8. Well, here we have multiply and subtract. So multiply comes before subtraction. So negative 70 times 2 is negative 40. Subtract negative 8. Well, remember, when you subtract a negative, think about it this way. If you remove a negative thing, well, that's positive, right? This is a very dark example, but if you find out somebody has cancer, that's very negative. But if you remove the cancer, if you remove a negative, it's positive. So negative 140, subtract negative, that's like saying positive 8. And negative 140 plus 8 is negative 132. So this is just a simplistic example of how to perform order of operations without using PEMDAS. All right, that's it.